think of you and I, it takes me to a special place in my mind where we can be together. And I still hope that you'll be mine forever. Even though you're far away, I still know we need to begin. We are together.
Creature of your fantasies, made of things that you're told not to believe. And I'll show you sights you couldn't dream of. Baby, take my hand. Walk with me in the garden of Eden, where life's in technicolor, pure freedom. We don't need no rhyme or reason. Baby, take my hand. I'll lift you up, I'll make you feel so high. I'll bring you to life on the wild side. I'll bring you to life on the wild side. I'll bring you to life on the wild side. I'll bring you to life on the wild side. Dropped everything and ran like a criminal, moving so fast. There's no way to have control. Just let go and you'll crave the free fall. Baby, don't look back. Hear the blood that's running hot through your veins. Can't believe you almost stayed and behaved. You laugh at what used to shake your faith. Oh, there's no going back. I'll lift you up, I'll make you feel so high. I'll bring you to life on the wild side. I'll bring you to life on the wild side.
Ceci's just having some. I don't know if you guys can hear me. Ceci's having some internet issues. She's coming back in a second.
Hanging by a thread, hung up on all the words you said. Breaking free from this conformity that you force on me. Everything I do is one big show. It's about damn time that I take control. Put me under a microscope and watch me take control. What's this? I finally read this helplessness. Tired of feeling like I'm upside down. So I'm gonna turn it all around. And and dear God, save my soul, 'cause it is not. Tired of feeling like I'm upside down. So I'm gonna turn it all around.
Yeah, mine too. I have a Fall Guys on my PlayStation, but it's way over there. But I have it also on PC, so I could use it. Perfect, yeah. I think it's Ceci who has it on PlayStation.
That I need saving. Finally awake and living. Yeah. The pressure inside was building. I felt under attack.
Sorry guys, Ceci's having trouble with Ceci's having a crash.
I'm chosen my path. What's this? I finally read this helplessness. Tired of feeling like
I'm just gonna hop out for a second to call Cecilia because she's having issues.
turn it all around and and dear God, save my soul, 'cause it is not. Tired of feeling like I'm upside down. So I'm gonna
Bueno,
turn it all around.
¿qué onda, Chichi?
Sí, crashó todo. No me abre Discord, así que estoy revisando la computadora y ya reiniciando todo entero.
¿Ya iniciaste todo?
Sí, o sea, ahorita estoy reiniciando la computadora
Ok,
y el internet.
ok.
Pero no me crashó. Bueno, diles que ahorita en unos 3 minutos otra vez.
Ah, ok, perfecto. Yeah, so I was just on the phone with Ceci. She's having issues with Discord. So she's restarting her entire system. Yeah. Do you want me to keep chatting? Talking? Okay, imagine that this was like a voice test. Oh, yeah. Can you let me know how do I sound? Because sometimes I have issues with that on my on meetings. Because we're gonna use this this audio, right? The Discord one. Okay. Yes, I can. Hello? 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 How does this sound? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, you can also like what my brothers have done is just increase the, if you right click on my name in the chat, you can add a user volume. Yeah.
Run away, and I know, and I know, and I know right now we can change anything and make it better together. Now we're strong, don't question it. The truth will break your chains. We have the key. Open your eyes and see. We are the ones who know the answers, and they ain't never gonna hold us back. The sea is rising like we dancers.
Nice.
Imagine life without a purpose. Now picture everything you're fighting for.
Pretty good.
Now picture everything you're fighting for.
Sexy, yeah. Caro is perfect. Whatever is easiest, I don't mind. It's short for Carolina. Yeah, Caro is perfect, just as you said it. Yeah. No problem.
Open your eyes and see. We are the ones who know the answers, and they ain't never gonna hold us back. The sea is rising like we dancers. Imagine life without a purpose. Now picture everything you're fighting for. Now picture everything you're fighting for.
Nickel and nickel, I don't understand. Nickel and nickel. Just I always say decal. Ceci is perfect. Yeah, exactly like that. Yeah.
I recall the past again tonight. It's in the front of my mind. As I fall apart, you begin to cry. The tears are making you blind. The future's far away, but I'll stay. I'll stay. Just take a leap of faith. We'll find a way for you and me. Can't look back and run from what I feel inside. There's no more time to hide, because I feel again. I feel again. Oh, now I feel again. We're bringing
having to restart her router. Yeah.
Help me find the right words to say to get us back on our way. Can we try to fight against the grain of throwing out what we made? The future's far away, but I will stay because I feel again, I feel again, oh now I feel again, we're bringing this back to life, we're picking up where we left off and on again, we never quite could forget, cause what we got so intense.
And
I feel it again, I feel it again, I feel it again. We're bringing this back to life.
amazing. Nice. Yeah, the only thing I was gonna comment on the questions is that there's a couple that are animation focused. I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm not an animator. I'm on the different side of games, yeah. So, yeah, okay, perfect. I'm a founder and producer at my studio, Original Fire Games, and we're making racing games. Specifically, right now, one called Circuit Superstars. Thank you. Yeah, I started up in design. I was in design for 5 years, and then we're like a 6-person team, so it's very, very small, so I still do a lot of design and UI. But yeah, when people ask me for a job description, I'm like, majority of my time is spent doing this. but yeah, I think as I met you when I was still a designer at Relic, we went on a panel, and then I worked with Melissa as well when we were at Relic briefly. Melissa, I don't think we were ever on the same team, were we? Yeah. Oh, really? Was it that short? Okay. Yeah, where are... Nice, okay. Amazing. Both of Des and Melissa.
You can't fall asleep when you're counting stars. Got it together. Your mind can't sleep when you let it serve. Now you wanna see me fall. From a quarter mile, I can see you at the call. Think about it, ring won't tell you what I saw. When you break it up, you'll see who had it all.
Hi. Yes. Hi, Ceci. Yes.
just assumed I'd play the part of keeping you in the right direction. No matter how your confidence may fall, I'll be here as your foundation. And I say, hey, yo, just let it go. Your struggles won't remain. And I say, hey, yo, we're holding hope and wake up yesterday. So hold on to me. Hold on to me. Hold
Oh
on,
no.
hold on to
Yeah,
me.
that's good. Are you from Vancouver, Jess? Okay. Great.
Please don't wait here until your faith is shaken. There's a whole lot of
That was happening earlier.
on your
I think you may need to, Ceci, right click on my name on Discord and raise my volume. But let me know if in the stream it's a problem.
build you one more time. And I say,
Yeah, like user volume.
just let it go. Your struggles won't remain. And I say,
Ba-ba-ba-ba.
we're holding hope and wake
Ba-ba-ba.
up to me.
Is this better? Yeah, okay.
Hold on to me. Hold on to me.
Okay. It's probably, I think I'm using the one from my camera because it's better. Yeah. I'll just lean in. Yeah.
Hold on to me.
Everybody, welcome to episode number 20 of the Hive Weekly. I'm Betso Alley Cat. Today we have a super special show. Hopefully they could talk throughout the whole thing because I don't want to play Fall Guys. But I'm so excited. Today's show is about game developers. We also have a Corsair giveaway in the chat. Shout out to Corsair, EST TV, and NFL alumni. They're our sponsors for today's show. But welcome, everyone. I'm going to give you guys all your introductions right now. If I mispronounce your name or anything, please let me know. So Usage, who is also Desiree, or Des. I think it just says Des, right?
Yeah.
Okay. She currently works for Bonfire Studios on an unannounced project, splitting her time between Vancouver and California. She studied classical animation at Vancouver Film School. Ooh. And her first job was animating on Bob's Burgers before switching to 3D, where she worked on many, many Barbie
Oh,
movies. Did we
Oh,
go
it's fine.
down?
did anybody else like out?
Oh,
It
okay.
might have
Here?
just been me.
Yeah,
Are you there?
I couldn't hear you for a bit.
You're back. Okay.
Oh no. We have to start over. No I'm kidding. I'll catch you up, Chad. She studied at Vancouver Film School, and her first job was animating on Bob's Burgers before switching to 3D, where she worked on many, many Barbie movies. Oh my God, those are my favorite. They
Please
used to
don't.
show on Nickelodeon. I'm so serious. After the thrill of Sparkles and Pink wore off, she contracted as a cinematic animator on Mortal Kombat X, and then began on a beautiful journey in games. Her evenings are spent drinking, hey, deliciously pretentious craft beer
Yes.
and playing Dota 2 When not at her computer, she is hiking in the woods with her Bernese mountain dog, Pixel. Oh, that's a big dog. Oh, I love it. Your bio is just everything. I'm sorry. Number two, but obviously there's no specific order. Shim Shady, Melissa, senior animator at Sony Santa Monica Studio. Melissa Shim is a senior animator hailing from Vancouver, Canada, where she started her career in games almost 2 decades ago. I can't talk today. Decades ago. Previously, she has worked in Copenhagen and is now currently in Los Angeles. Outside of work, she enjoys the outdoors, travel, snowboarding, photography, and pixel art. So you could talk about that after, if anything, because you guys could tell me where you guys have hiked. um, Ceci, lead animator at Vice Versa Games. Ceci, oh, I don't want to mess up your last name, Velasco,
Perfect.
is a Mexi-Canadian artist living in Vancouver. She studied media arts at Emily Carr University with a major in animation and minor in film theory and writing. She has been working in video games for the best part of the last decade with a sprinkling of illustration, 2D animation, and writing on the side. She enjoys old people things like strolls, calm music, flowers, tea, and vaguely disapproving the youths. Sounds British.
Something about these like intros being read back makes me feel like we're on a weird like dating site. Like she enjoys
Hi.
long strolls on the
Yeah.
beach.
It's okay.
I would have written my bio differently.
We should do one of the like.
Yeah. Oh,
Hey.
Tessa's got that down pat.
All right. Bling Wolf, Caro, oh, your last name, Mestreda. Am I saying that wrong?
That's perfect. Yes.
Okay. Founder and studio director at Original Fire Games, Kara has been developing games since 2013 when she began her career as a game designer working at Relic Games. In 2018, she co-founded Original Fire Games alongside her siblings. Oh, wow. With the goal of developing the racing game Circuit Superstars. Since founding the studio, Kara has been focusing on the business management side of things while leading production of the games OFG makes. Her goal is to build fantastic teams and support people in doing the best work of their lives. She's also, oh, I see, this is the best part, the last part. The last line is the best one. She is also a cook, a gatherer of friends, and a lover of nature and poetry. Kara lives in Vancouver and misses her hometown of Mexico City dearly. Aw, I'm sure
Yeah.
they miss you as well. Welcome.
Definitely a dating profile.
Well,
Damn
I
it.
mean, it's
So
okay.
funny.
I enjoyed it. I mean,
Thank you.
that's a real bio. You get the business, and then we know what you like and things. How's everybody? So we'll go around with the first question, and it is, basically, what do you do, and who inspired you to start? Getting into some developing of games. We can start with Des. We could go across the board. Des, Melissa, Ceci, and
board.
Kara.
Cool. Well, thanks for having us. So I think for me, I kind of like accidentally fell into animation actually. Like I was just like, oh, what the fuck can I do to get out of my hometown? Sorry if there's no swearing on here. I'm
It's
very
okay.
bad at that. And I saw an ad for Vancouver Film School and I was like, oh, I like to draw. I don't really know like what, artists do. Like you hear the expression starving artist all the time. So I was like, animation sounds like an actual plausible career though, where you can make money. So I went and moved from Saskatoon to Vancouver, did animation school. I always loved games. Like I've been playing them for as long as I can remember. My parents were pretty much hardcore gamers growing up, so that was kind of cool. Like I just grew up with it always being a thing in our household that was okay. And I didn't think like girls couldn't play games or anything stupid like that, so that was awesome. And then at some point after graduating, obviously doing a bunch of different things, I was like, oh, well, I'm animating and I also love video games. I should probably just try to like work in video games. That would make the most sense. And then, yeah, obviously it was Melissa that hooked me up. So that was amazing. So thanks, Melissa, again.
Glad to help. I should talk now.
Yep, I was gonna say, Melissa, that's the greatest segue ever.
Yeah, so like when I was in high school, which is a long time ago now, I thought I'd be like a history teacher or math teacher or something like that. But slowly over time, I discovered I was not that strong in academics. Um, I did not want to go to university to write essays and stuff. I was just like, nah. Um, and I'd always liked animation, and I did grow up, with like an NES. Like I convinced my dad to buy one. Like I found out like an elementary school friend had it, so I did grow up playing a lot of video games. But back then there was a show called Reboot, which was one of the first, if not the first, 3D animated cartoon series on TV, and it was made in Vancouver. Luckily, I met like another high school student who told me about a local school that taught animation. I was like, that's a thing. Um, so I took that after graduating, and I didn't actually think about games as an option. I thought it'd be like TV and film. I'd end up working in like Disney and stuff, but Electronic Arts had communication with our school, and so a team saw my demo reel at the time, and I kind of fell into video game development that way, and never left. And it's brought me around the world, which is like always a great opportunity. I think like I'd never thought about leaving Vancouver at that time, and when it was like, hey, do you want to work in Denmark? I was like, sure. And then same thing with Los Angeles. Like, I had an opportunity with Sony Santa Monica, and I was like, how can I not take this? Like, the studio has been known to do some amazing animation work with their previous projects. So that brings us to 2021 now.
I always forget that you worked in Denmark, like always. 'Cause I didn't know you in that time of your life.
Yeah.
That was like a decade ago now.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I met Ceci on FIFA actually.
Oh,
Right, that's where we met. I was thinking, like, where did we meet if it wasn't Mortal Kombat? Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes, yes.
best segue ever. Go ahead.
Oh, do I also need to like make a segue to that? Okay, cool. I'll just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
It was a spring day in Mexico City. No, so I feel like I've committed to the old persona, and now this is what you stick through it. I'm British somehow.
Oh, no, you're fine.
So sorry to recap. The question is, how did I get here, or what's my story?
Yeah, definitely. How did what inspired you to get into this field, and how did you get where you are now?
Cool. Yes. Well, I think it was a little bit like Des in the sense of I think I've always had artistic inclinations, and animation was one where I could actually make a living out of it. In Mexico, I kind of fell into it in high school here. I was an international student. I was Fez. Do you guys remember that 70s show from Fez? And I discovered that animation was a thing. In Mexico, we didn't really have it. And so after I finished high school here, I went back. I did like a 1-year course in 3D animation, but it was very, very lacking. Like the industry was just not there yet. So then I came back. And how I ended up in video games specifically was a little bit more random. Mostly I graduated from Emily Carr. Emily Carr was a weird one at the time because it was more art school than it was technical training. So I could think my way through existence, but I couldn't really do a lot of the things that other people could do from more technical schools. And so it was kind of like gypsy for a little while, just doing things from demo videos for things to illustrations to whatever. And then at some point I landed at the EA job via a friend I knew. And that's kind of what opened up the gates for video games. And it was really interesting because I really kind of I like video games, but by no means was I ever a gamer in the sense, they kind of lost me after Tomb Raider. It was just a dark part of my life that I just stopped playing games. I was intensely gamer when I was younger, and then it was just gone for a while. But then since EA, it was I think one of the better industries for me, especially around work-life balance, which is huge. I really, really value not working till I die. So then that just kind of evolved into, I still went into movies after a little while, jumping around from Relic. That's where I met Gato, which will take you for a little while. I was at Relic there for a little while, and vice versa. I met the studio founder at like a job fair in one of these gypsy I don't know what's the next move. And we've been building a really interesting studio right now. But that was the most recent. That's kind of the rarer one. Before that, it was just more the jumping from here to there in projects. And at Relic, I was there for 3.5 years, which is Gato was my buddy. She was assigned to me, and we were both like, "What? Because we're Mexican, we're gonna get along." We did absolutely get along. The Mexicans,
We
they
got
were
very much
correct.
along. Yeah.
It was a correct assumption.
out.
Yeah, we were both offended in our first chat, like coffee chat.
That's a great way to bond, like mutual offense. Right?
Yeah, it's true. It's been really cool to see that thread kind of gone through the decade. Anyway. So,
Crazy. So I think it's so interesting to hear everyone's stories because we all kind of like stumbled from different paths. Like for me, I really can't pinpoint the time in which I thought about making video games. But I do remember like around the beginning of like the age in which I started going to university, which was around 20 years old. No, 19, 20. I didn't have I knew that I wanted to make games, but I didn't really have clarity on what path one would follow to do that. I was living in Mexico City at the time, and there was really no career path that was clear. There was no companies to work for. And I think more importantly, I'm going to age myself, but game development wasn't really democratized at the time. There was no such thing as Unity. There was no indie game development that was accessible. And so I kind of pushed it down the side and went into communication media studies. And I specialized in film, and I worked in film for a couple of years until it like consumed my soul, working in advertising. Yeah, at a career fair, I came across Vancouver Film School, same as this, and they had a game design program that had a really good reputation. And also BFS has very strong recruitment efforts in Mexico, so they called me until they convinced me to
Good
check
job
it out.
marketing, BFS.
Yeah.
Good cheers.
Yeah, and so I moved to Vancouver eventually, studied a program at BFS, and a couple of like when I graduated from game design is when I got a job at Relic. I started as with a design internship. I never would have seen myself designing RTS games because they were never really like the genre that I was into growing up. I played lots of video games, but strategy space was not one of my own. But I'm so grateful for that experience because for any game designer, that's like a crash course in complexity and just so many had to deal and learn with so many different systems that were really interesting to learn about. And so I just had the opportunity to grow my career there for a while. I think perhaps everyone will resonate that when you work at a studio, there might be many issues and just all the complications of game development, but we lost Ceci.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
but
Ceci disappeared.
yeah, hopefully
That's
she'll come
okay.
back in a bit. She's having
Yeah.
internet issues.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was gonna say you just like continuously meet people that really love what they do so deeply that it's very contagious and they keep inspiring you. Yeah, some of those people were my siblings, my brothers who started making a game in Unity on their own in Mexico.
Nice.
And eventually we partnered up to seek publishing, and now that's what we're doing, working together, which is very strange to work with one's family, but we've been doing it for a long time. So yeah, so that's how I got into game development.
Wow, that's amazing. And
Thank you.
I mean, I guess you guys started like, I don't want to say way back to make you feel old or anything, but you started at a time where it was just kind of like there was not really like a pathway to like to specifically get into video games. Like I think you all mentioned going into like the film development at some point, or like either, So for like the artist, or I should say the artist, but for the animators or for game design, is it like you choose between art and film most of the time, like actually doing like illustrations and things like that? Anybody could answer that. Just jump in.
Yeah.
Trying to process that.
I mean, what was it like to like? I mean, I don't want to say think way back, but what was it like to like kind of be like, well, what do I actually want to do with my career? Because I saw a bunch of you guys were in like film, so I was just like, yeah,
I think like your first year in college and university, like a lot of people
yeah,
don't know what they want. And
Mhm.
like for example, in my school, like there were a lot of students in my year that like wanted to be animators, but like over the course of their time at the school, they discovered they preferred like modeling characters or doing lighting or texturing or game design or something completely different. So I think a
Oh
lot of
wow.
that just comes down to having that curiosity and knowing that, discovering that there are options there. And back then, yeah, I wasn't as like blatant,
Yeah.
like come study here for game design, right? It was more like people would go into coding maybe,
Yeah.
and guide it that way perhaps, or maybe they took coding and ended up in games accidentally, just like us. So
Yeah, I think for I'm 31, so like 10 years ago, everybody was like, "Do computer science," and I'd be like, "I hate math so much. Like, I actually hate math. Like, please don't tell me to do
I
that."
hate math too. We have that in common.
yeah, not good at math.
I remember like my first year, they showed me the schedule for computer science, and it was like all these math classes, and I was like, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But I went the business way. But welcome back, Ceci. I'm so glad.
Thank
got
you.
for
I've
the
been here
second
all along,
session.
audio wise, but yeah, I
Oh,
could,
okay.
don't mind me if I come back. If I go out, I'll come back. I'll find my way back.
Yeah. So who wants to describe a day in the life of a developer? I know it says animator, but whatever you do, what's like give me, you're developing a game. What are you doing? Are you waking up at 6 a.m. in the morning? I just wanted to know
Hell
that
no.
personally. Okay, thank
No.
God. I hear, because we hear the horror stories.
Some people do. Some people have
Yeah.
their early starters, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, like you're in California. You should be chilling on the beach. You know.
I
Are you
literally
chilling
have a
on the
coworker who surfs every morning before he comes into work. So that's like an actual California thing. I don't know. I don't surf, but he does. So good job on him.
In Vancouver, the equivalent would be like going for a hike every
Yeah.
morning, right?
Oh,
The people that go to the grind.
Yeah, right.
Like you
Yeah.
smell like outside. Wow.
We're doing it outside as game developers. Like,
Yeah.
Our
I
first meeting was at like 10 a.m. So like we
Okay.
don't start until.
And is
mean,
everyone remote right now?
together,
I forgot to start with that.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
gonna
Okay.
say, yeah, game development during COVID feels very different to me.
very challenging, definitely.
Yeah.
So, because I guess I'll continue. Like, game development is very collaborative, and
Mhm.
everyone here can totally touch on that. Like for me, I'm a gameplay animator, so I focus more on the what you play. I work very very closely with designers. I work with my lead, I work with the animation director, a little bit with like the game director, in order to help define my tasks and to know what I need to deliver to make sure it fits within the style of the game, within the design intent of the game, and that sort of stuff. So there's a lot more meetings than you probably would think if you have zero exposure to what game development is. There's a lot of meetings. There's a lot of negotiating. You have to communicate well. There's a lot of trial and error to find the fun. Like you might see like why did they do it this? There could be a bazillion reasons behind why they could or couldn't do something. It's negotiating with other departments. Do we have the time and resources from programming? Do we have the time and resources from the character riggers or artists to make changes to concept designs and stuff? So it is a very communication heavy kind
Very
of job.
teamy, right?
Yeah.
It's always teamwork. No matter where you are on the thing, it's always teams, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But
And
for
then you
games
have to-
especially, so.
Yeah. I always when I finish a game, especially on a stream, I always let the credits run, and just because and I've always said that I always tell people, I'm like, we play this game for an amount of hours and things that you just don't realize how many people work on it. And even when you're reading the credits, you'll see like Santa Monica, and then you'll see Germany, and you're like,
Yeah.
what? How did or Japan, California, and there's just so many teams collaborating, and you don't know what piece of the puzzle, but you're all a part of the puzzle putting it together. So yeah, anybody else want to tell me about their day or just like what that's like to just work with all these team members?
My day is the same as Melissa's. Like verbatim, it's like designers and like other. I mean, there's only one other animator at our studio right now, so we work closely together. And then, yeah, I don't know. It's pretty much the same thing. Like,
I feel like you guys can touch on like say team size. Like I have a 300-person studio, and your studio is quite small. And
yeah, our
Oh,
dev
is it?
team is like 25 people, I think.
Okay.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
The whole team right now.
Yeah, on
Okay.
the game side, I think the studio's like 30 something, but the
Okay.
developer side is I think 25 or 28.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
What
Amazing,
about
yeah.
Kara and Sissy? Sissy, sorry.
Yeah, Ceci and I
Oh,
are
she's
both
like-
in. Ceci looks like she might be having.
Oh, she's back.
Oh, she's back. Yeah. So we're both in small studios. In my case, I think it's very similar to Des and Melissa's in that it's very strong collaboration and we rely on a very strong communication. My day usually looks like a lot of conversations, a lot of conversations and checking in and connecting people. But we're also, I think, the benefit of having a small team is that we don't have to go through several layers of communication. Like we can one-on-one with each other throughout the day, because everyone is kind of wearing different hats. So there's not just like the designer or the engineer or the engineers, but rather who can help with this issue, which comes with pros and cons. It just means that we're constantly uncomfortable learning new terrain, but also we just like relied in a very tight knit collaboration, and I think Ceci might relate to that.
She's back.
Oh
What
no!
you said? What was that thing you said? Am I here?
I got her voice.
I could hear her. Yeah, we can hear you.
You're
Yeah,
right
you
here.
can talk. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I was just saying that you could potentially relate to working in a small team and wearing multiple different hats.
Yeah, I guess I was trying to think of what I was going to say without going on for 40 minutes, but I do think that my days have changed a ton depending on, yes, team size, whether it's been gameplay animation or cinematic animation. And in this case, particularly the business model of the studio that I'm in, it's kind of doing a little bit of a new thing where we are helping co-develop games. So we're working currently with Warner Brothers and Gotham Knights. We're helping them with supporting them, but internally we're doing our own thing. So right now, a day I think is probably the most versatile that my career has been in a day in my life right now, where I am working on the cinematics aspect of Gotham Knights. So I have, kind of cinematics is a little bit more like film. You're not doing as much collaboration. You're just kind of sitting through your shot, and then you kind of, it goes down the pipeline. You get revisions, and you hand it in. But on our own personal project, I'm helping kind of build the team, but also create new like a narrative structure for our own project and designing characters and stuff. So I will be oscillating between meetings around how to structure a new pitch for a project that we're going to make and how we're going to. The part of that I come in is usually narrative design and character design, and so I'm building that kind of learning a lot about game development from that perspective. So doing that. And then with the client work is then much more around like you get something assigned, you work on it, you have the meetings as to like how people are, how things are going. As I've been growing in the career, it's also been changing more from a position of just getting handed things to a position of how you teach someone else how to do things in the best way. So I think it's been getting more fun, like the more I've been working on, because you get to have a little bit more agency and you get to have a little bit more say as to how to structure, how to go about things. But yeah, that's kind of the day in.
I know chat saw me thinking once you said Warner Brothers. I'm like, Suicide Squad? Which one is she working on? I don't know.
Gotham Knights.
Oh yeah, Gotham Knights. Oh,
yeah.
We gotta talk after. I just want to know a little thing. No,
honestly, I know so little about the project.
I know they probably like. Yeah, but I love all the DC games. I'm a comic book fan. I'm sorry, but So we're gonna get into, because on this show we have a lot of college kids, we have parents, people who are interested in that. So is it much different now, or is it like better now to like kind of put your kid into a certain thing? So we can start from young to older. Like, how would you guys say someone could become go into development, whether it be animation or just any type of career behind the scenes where they want to help make video games, like writing, etc. Take as long as you want. Like I said, I don't want Fall Guys. Go ahead.
Okay, can I take the lead in this one, just because I feel strongly about this one, and so before I'm like, no, I disagree with everything everybody's gonna say. For animation specifically, my outlook has changed a ton, and I get asked this question a lot, especially from people in Mexico, because jumping, from any kind of developing country into the first world to come and learn these things, it's super expensive. And it's a lot. I mean, of course, COVID pandemic aside, we're gonna assume that life is not gonna continue the way that it has been. So we're just gonna assume that at some point we're gonna return to some normalcy. In animation specifically, the thing that I tend to advise people is be really honest about how you learn, because if you can be an independent learner, like if you're good at, say, joining an online course and then doing your work on your own and being proactive about how you ask questions and how you work on your things on your own time, then it is absolutely, in my opinion, not worth it moving to a whole other country and paying for all of that thing and going to a school, in the realms of Art Institute or VFS in that manner, because they're so expensive. And I don't think that right now you're getting the value of the money as opposed to joining an online school, because there's a few of them and they're pricey, but relative to the cost of the online school to something like an institution, it is still way cheaper. And I think that the quality of the things that are coming out of online schools are amazing. So for animation specifically, around the technicality of how to become an animator, how to know how to animate, I would always push, if you are the kind of person, and learn probably to be that kind of person, because it's very beneficial, to structure your day and learn on your own, through this kind of system. I think that right now is where I would be investing my money, but to also complement that with concept, right? To understand how things are made at a high level, like why games, why this decision versus that decision, because otherwise just being a technician won't give you as much of a possibility of growth within a team. And that's kind of what you always want to do. You want to kind of understand what you're doing from a technical perspective, but also from a perspective of how you think about these things. So that would be mine, of like, I'm a little bit more post-structuralist, and like, I don't know if I would necessarily advise people to go into schools the same way that I did, just because of the way that things work now.
Hey, I appreciate that answer, seriously, because I mean, schools are a ton of money, especially now. But yeah, especially if you have that, you really have that craving. Because a lot of developers I find are so passionate about what they do, like they genuinely love it. So it's just like, if I was passionate at 16, I would just tell my parents like, hey, I want to go to this school, whatever, and they wouldn't second guess it, But that is such a great answer. Anyone else want to follow up?
Anyone else? I've talked a lot. I
Go
can
for
chime in.
Live your dreams.
He's the inspiration. I did it.
Yeah, to add to Ceci, I agree. Like there's so much online resources out there now for a lot of fields, animation, CG modeling, character design. There's schools like CGMA, Animation Mentor. Then you can get software for free, like Blender. Is very, very popular now. I didn't even know it's been around like a couple decades. You got Unity. Like if you want to design your own game and dig into that, like there's a lot of free tutorials for that, or cheap tutorials for that. So I think just being curious, asking the right questions, knowing what to look for, like find communities, find forums, get on Twitter kind of thing, find the people that can help get those answers for you will go a long way. I think one thing that might be lacking in some of the online school stuff is like you may not build it as strong of a network, but because of the internet, it's easy to reach out that way, and networking goes a long way in trying to get that first job or whatever, or getting feedback. This is something I only learned, like it took me 10 years to understand. It wasn't about being like, oh, I'm bothering this person, I'm just using them for a job. It's really like you go into it being genuine, or at least I like to try and believe that. Like I've met all these fine ladies through like just being friendly at the office and keeping in touch like over like how many years it's been, right? So, so definitely, work on your social skills, right? Understand what
Yes, crucial.
talk to people, understand how to communicate, with people, be polite as well. Nobody owes you anything either, right? So you can't be entitled either and stuff like that. Like there's a common saying is like, don't be a dick, right? The industry is small and we all know each other. Like we're in like two different.
We really do,
Someone's gonna talk to me and I'm gonna talk to someone, that sort of thing. So
eager and humble.
Eager and humble, definitely.
It's so funny to hear you talk about networking. I was like, even the devs? I'm kidding now. But I do know because you guys do have like GDC and like others development things like that.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot of
even I believe there's developers involved in women in games and things like that too as well. So it's always cool to know that each of you kind of know each other and stuff like that. It's like awesome. So remember chat networking. They've heard that like 100 times about 10 different topics, but it's okay.
But networking from a perspective of like of having an interest for a real connection, right? Like networking with the purpose of actually being curious about other people, not just from a perspective of a transactional.
Yeah, it's like building a relationship. That's what I like to say. I like to say building a relationship because there's people that I've talked to for years and their positions change and stuff, and then they come back to me and they're like, "Hey, do you heads up about this and this?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, thank you. Like I didn't expect this. It's just like we just know each other. We're friendly. We're cool. All that. So that's really cool. Even the developers. I'm sorry.
That's how I got pulled into this whole thing. Jen was like, "Hey, you wanna participate in a panel?" I'm like, "When is it?" Okay.
It's like a black hole sucking people in.
No, go ahead, Des. Like,
I mean, I don't know how much I can say beyond what you guys have said. That's all amazing and accurate. It's more like the other thing right now is like if you were interested in making a video game, like what Melissa said, it's so easy to just, well, I shouldn't say easy. It's free to download Unreal or Unity, and then you can actually download existing projects as well. So if you're like, I really want to make an RTS or like a MOBA style or a platformer, like those exist, and you could just go in and start being like, how did somebody do this? Like, what are the triggers, or like what is like the coding behind this, or like how do I just swap out art to make it my own? And yeah, you can't probably turn around and sell it because it's somebody else's code base potentially, but like whatever those rules are with open source type work, but like you can sort of get a feel and an idea for how things are made and how things are done, and if it's something that you even like doing. Like there's a lot of cinematic animators that don't want to do gameplay animation, or like vice versa, and it's because they're very different technically speaking as well. So it's like you might not want to be the animator that's like going into an engine and like ripping stuff apart and hooking up their things and like chopping up all their stuff. I don't know, they're all different, so it's like finding what you like about those different art forms and then going for that, I think, is like important, like identifying what it is that you like about games, because it's easy to be like, I want to make a game or I want to work in film or whatever, but it's like, what about those things do you love?
I used to tell people when they used to say, I want to code things. I was like, go on MySpace. They would be like, what do you mean? I'm like, remember those Flash things? People would actually code them. And I'm like,
the worst. The worst.
Slow your whole page down. But
Different
that's
types.
very interesting. Yeah, and we've heard stories before about like people who mod, like the mod community turning things like auto chess was like a mod at one point on Dota, and now it's like everybody has a different type of auto chess. So you never know, you know.
I mean, Dota was a mod of Warcraft, so I don't.
League of Legends was born from that concept.
Yeah,
I'm all for. I think modding is such a wonderful thing that developers can do for their communities. Like it's such a beautiful way to support that creative endeavor, because if they're already fans of the game, like Des was saying, like modding can be a really good entry point into figuring out what first of all, what game development might be like, but also what they like about creating the thing, because there's a big difference between liking a game and liking making a game. And I think modding can definitely bridge that gap to get to the point where you realize that you actually do like making games, because it is very different.
Oh yeah, like I know people who mod for Sims 4, and once that update hits and everybody's on them, like, where's the update for the mod? And they're like, you know, it's like you have to, like, once there's like a demand for things, you kind of have to get with it. So you never know. They used to go on under her YouTube page and just spam like, "Where's the update?" It's terrible, but yeah, you definitely get the feed. There's a question on here that says, "Do you need to be a great artist to be an animator?" Anyone want to answer that?
No, but it helps.
It helps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, guys, can you hear whistling? That's my dishwasher. So I'm sorry that if I'm speaking, a little like thing going, and I can't stop it. But I do
hear it.
I don't hear anything.
No, amazing, cool. I can hear it. If I'm especially grumpy, it's because of that. I mean, animation at the end of the day, it's study of movement. But so much about animation is also happening on a 2D screen. Even if you're doing 3D animation, you have to understand that the output is going to be a two-dimensional thing. So you still have to understand drawing and composition principles. You can not, but you will be so much better if you do. Like it'll just going to make your work so much easier. You're going to get so much better at it. So I don't think you need to become an amazing artist, but at least the principles of composition, the principles of drawing, the principles of like perspective, those kinds of things would help. But beyond that, it's the kind of thing. It's all art anyway.
Yeah. Like I used to draw as a kid. I mean, I still draw, but like I was never amazing at it, and I don't think I would have had the patience for something like 2D classical animation. But once I found out 3D was an option and I didn't have to be good at drawing, I was like, ooh, cool. I mean, it's people who are like really good, like character modelers or environment modelers, like they will tend to have, a very, very strong foundation in drawing and the fundamentals of art, right? So, to be better, you will want to dig into things like that. You want to study the things that support, your goals. Like even like game design, psychology is a good thing to study because you want to know what the players thinking, like what, if they do A, are they going to do B or C, that sort of thing. So like they're definitely like, and as like I'm a gameplay animator, I want to try and understand design, right? Like I want to understand why they're making those decisions so I can help inform myself when I make my decisions, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's one thing that's super interesting about game development, about game design specifically, is that I've met people that come from so many different backgrounds. Like other people used to be, like some game designers used to be animators or producers or etc. But the educational background is very versatile. And I definitely agree that just understanding like the science behind what motivates people, what might make a player curious, how we perceive how we perceive punishment, what motivates us to learn and stuff like that. It's so essential to crafting good experience.
That's pretty cool. I was gonna say punishment. I thought that was every game. Pain. I'm getting off Monster Hunter Rise. I'm like, pain. All I know is pain.
I've never actually played it, but
don't pain.
Really?
I hear mixed things. Like people love it or they don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I can say that about a lot of things. League of Legends, pain.
Like I like looking at videos, like gameplay videos. Like I don't play video games a lot.
You're a pain voyeur.
I will watch all of them, but I won't like because that's those
I feel
games.
like I'm like that with horror games. I'm like, every time I try to experience it myself, I tense up and I can't do it. I won't move.
Yeah.
But I'll watch someone like, and I'll be like, ha ha ha. You know, I'll just watch it and just be like terrible.
What motivates you to play?
Just general fun. Like if I'm having fun and or if it's something I could think about complex. I love puzzles as well. So anything with that. I play a lot of different games. So as long as it's not scary or a platformer, I'm terrible at jumping for some reason. And
That's why
every
you don't
game.
like Fall Guys,
Yeah, I'm
right?
gonna.
Definitely not Fall Guys.
I'm
The jumping. Oh my God, is
That's
that
the
good?
one thing
I'm
you do.
actually
Guys.
terrible at jumping in every game. True story. Like every game possible. I'm terrible at jumping.
It's a
And
splinter in your mind now.
yeah, everyone wonders. They're like, I can't. But they think I'm lying until they actually see it, and they're like, oh my god, she really is really bad at this. In Fall Guys with the windmill, I actually took like 20. Like I was like in front of the pack, and I got to this one part where you had to jump, and I just kept falling,
Yeah.
and then
Nah.
It's so painful.
um. So I do want to ask about for college students or just anyone in general. I don't want to just specify college students or just anyone in general interested in development. What's the best way to get experience? And like you said, networking. Can you guys like expand on that? We could start with anyone who wants to jump in.
What's a question? What's the best way to get what?
Get experience into like development or just jumpstart your career, I guess.
I would say don't be picky about your first jobs. That's the one. Like the advice that I keep on giving to people that are coming out of school is like it's not a reflection of your potential ability or your talent, but if you get all diva or have these high expectations that you're going to find your career as soon as you graduate, school is just the first door to the beginning of a career that you're going to build over many years, and the sooner you start the better. And the whole idea is to keep those wheels in motion, so don't get precious. Like when I graduated, I thought that all I wanted to do was do character animation, and then I didn't do character animation until 6 years into my professional career. But in that time, I learned that there were so many other things that I actually really like doing on top of character animation. It's not that I didn't like it anymore, but I wouldn't have known that if I would have just been like, no, I will not work unless it is my passion. Like it's. I would say just that. Get to a job quickly. Get to an opportunity quickly, and make sure that you're constantly being pushed and pushing yourself and growing.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think if you're at like smaller studios too, you get to be a jack of all trades like Carol, right? And Des even. So you can definitely look at opportunities in that light. I don't know if you guys want to comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say that along the lines of what Ceci was saying, not being picky with first opportunities, but also like game development. As we were, I think Melissa, you were saying earlier in regards to education. It's the same goes towards portfolio building, right? Like all of that education turns into portfolio building. That I mean, I get that making a portfolio and spending time teaching yourself in Unity is not getting you paid. But if you can have a job that is not the best job, it might be, like your entry level into game development or completely unrelated. But if you're spending that time into training those skill sets, all of that is transferable, right? Like all of that will be something that you can show that goes way farther than a CV or like a business card. Is actually yourself like attempting to do something and learning from that process. And it's never wasted effort, right? Like just building portfolio building ends up being portfolio. Either it's experience and things that you learned, or it's a piece that actually gets you a job or an interview.
Yeah.
But either way, it's an investment.
And it also helps you focus. I think that one of the things that I see when I was mentoring at VFS for a little while was that most of us have a lot of interests at the beginning of our career and we want to do a bunch of things, but it is important to specialize in something at the beginning at least, to pick the one thing and then go after that specifically, because sometimes you have people that is like, well, I like animating, but I also like game design, but I also like modeling, and I also like texturing. I could do all these things. which is phenomenal, and that's great, you know, to do it. But even at a small studio, you still have to specialize in the one thing and then eventually kind of branch out. So the advantages, like the perception that sometimes going into a small studio means that you're going to be able to do more things.
Mhm.
I think that's more true when you're a little bit more advanced in your career and you already have specialized at the one thing, and then you can start branching out to other things. But at the beginning, small or large studio, you still need to have the one thing that you're strongest at. And I would actually say that it was probably more beneficial to go into a medium to larger studio at the beginning, because you will have a lot more mentorship around how to structure your work. Whereas in a small studio, it'll be a little bit more chaotic. So the idea of like choose the one thing at the beginning and know that eventually you can go on and be master of all trades as much as you wanted to be it. But at the beginning, you have to start in something small and specific.
Yeah.
And you guys are you have to get used to like being on a team. Not to say you have to get used to it, but like you have to get, you know, how to communicate with each other. So I would think getting into anything would to just try to get that experience is just really cool.
There's
Des,
stuff
did
like,
you?
I want to throw in like there's stuff like game jams that exist as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
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 Yeah,
Oh,
all
there-
of that experience aside doesn't mean anything if you have like noodled away on like passion projects for 10 years, but then you like go in and you're a total dick to work with. Like everyone's gonna be like, cool,
100%.
neat, see ya.
Right.
So learning the like team part of it and like how to interact with other humans is super critical and
100%.
important. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It's incredible how many opportunities are built through just befriending people at the studio. Like you guys were saying earlier, it's I've seen so many people. I mean, my team currently, my studio is built from people that I met at Relic. That
Oh,
eventually I
wow.
was like, hey, do you want to come over? But it's it's so important to be friendly and just make an effort to enjoy and get to know the people that you're working with. And nobody teaches you that at school. Nobody teaches you to make a good conversation, to ask good questions. But
Yeah.
people are craving that. So it's a
Mhm.
good skill to train.
And
Yeah,
then nobody's expecting you to be professional when you're just starting a career. I think that sometimes we feel like as juniors, you have to pretend that you know more than you do. And when you start a job, one of the main things that I see people wasting a lot of time on is just ask the question. You don't know how to do that. You don't know how to open the thing. You don't know where the file is. Just go ask somebody. But this kind of feeling that we think that we should know more than we do, no one's expecting you to, especially at the very beginning. And especially at the beginning of a career, people are much more likely to hire you because you're nice. You know, because most students are going to be, or most people recently out of college or school are probably going to be at a similar level. You know, yeah, you always have like the one genius that we all hate, but like generally we're going to be like at a normal mediocre junior level. And then it's so much more like I was saying about, do you have the openness? Do you have the curiosity? Are you a person that people want to work with every day and see their face? Right. So
That's true.
On top of that, it's also like don't be afraid to make mistakes and fail, right? Like that is a lot of what game development is. Like fail, we always say like fail quick, fail fast, right? Because the
Yeah.
work is so iterative. I mean, games take
Mhm.
1 year, they could take 6 years, and it's things are constantly moving around, and so yeah, you have to like just be able to like dive in and don't let little failures stop you from that is still progress, right?
yeah.
Mhm,
And ask for feedback even when you hate it. We all hate it. No one likes feedback. I think I should just say that.
Learn how to take feedback.
We learn.
right?
We will
I
learn.
was gonna say,
At least
do
for
you
me.
get harsh feedback back?
You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the best expectation you can have of yourself is to learn to fake that you're okay with getting feedback.
I was gonna say
that's it.
practicing in the mirror.
Yeah. Just like
Thank you.
feedback will you will only get to a point of like poker face, and that's as good as it's gonna get. You're never gonna feel good about getting feedback. Never, ever.
Like duly noted.
Can't. Like it's just not a thing. So if you think that oh, at the beginning I'm insecure, no, it will always suck. But
Yeah.
it is very, very, very important to learn to sit quiet and to ask feedback continuously. As a matter of fact, I think that I went a little bit on the masochistic side of like I hated it so much, especially at the beginning, that I was like, tell me, and I would send it to everybody. It's like, just give me the feedback, just hit it.
Over index.
Oh, you know, like
Yeah.
boxers that are just like punch me, you're just like taking it, and not because I didn't, you know, I didn't mind it, it's because I hated it so much that I'm like, and even to this day, I will get feedback and I will instantly disagree with it out of my pride, and then when I sit on it just for like it takes me less time. Initially, it took me like 5 days. Now it takes me like 10 minutes to be like, you're right, you're right. Or you do it sometimes at the beginning of my career. I remember with feedback, I would get feedback, and then I would do it out of spite, just so they see how wrong they were.
Oh wow.
And then it was better, and then it worked, and then that's it.
Wow.
But no,
it backfired.
Feedback. I mean, generally, I don't know you guys. In general, feedback is given really nicely. At least Canadians are very nice.
No one's ever going to say this sucks. Like,
Oh.
and if they do, they're horrible at giving actual feedback that's critical and beneficial. Like, the feedback you get should always be like in service of the work or the game, or you know, it's like to make the end thing better. So
Yeah. I think the best feedback I've received is when I'm asked what I was trying to accomplish. You know, like when there's kind of like an acknowledgement of, look, okay, this is the attempt. What were you trying to do? And then you get to be like, this was my thought process. This is where I was going, etc. And I just really appreciate that process of not like inherently being told, this is not the direction, or this needs to change, or etc. But actually just like finding a base of agreement, or like the mutual understanding of, this is where you're at, this is what you attempted, and this is what the expectation is. So how can we make that how can we make that work together, or how can we direct you in a better move you in a better direction? I really appreciated that from a good boss I used to have. But it's hard to find, I think.
I was gonna say, what's the environment like for stuff like? Is it more like we're giving you feedback so you can fix it, or is it like we're giving you feedback to give you shit?
It's just game development is so iterative. Like everything is constantly changing, and nothing ever is resolved on paper. Like as a game designer, you go in with a spec, like a document writing the details of a system or a mechanic or whatever, with your best assumptions and intentions. And 6 months later, it will be completely different because, you know, like it was engineered and then it was given to players, or you tested it yourself and you're like, everything I thought was true is not. Your world collapses for it, and then
false.
Yeah. No, but it's just I mean, that's a beautiful thing about video games, right? It's an art form that's completed through interactivity. And so until it's in that mode, then you have to stay open to being proven wrong, or to having to change.
And that it'll never be done. I think that in any discipline that one is working, you never reach a state of completion where you feel it's completed.
Yeah.
Like it's always going to feel lacking from the big scope of the project. Like any game that ends up being released, it's always like, well, that's that, you know, like it's rarely going to be like, yeah, we checked all the boxes and it was amazing. It's like, at the best case scenarios in my experiences, it has been, we accomplished the important things. There were still like 1,000 other things that could have been better, but the big ones we got. And I think that that's true for the big project and as a whole, but then also each discipline would have its own, like, the animation will never all be polished at the same level. Sometimes it won't be polished at all. And like the game design will always have its little quirks, and like everything will always kind of give you a little bit of a sense of like and it'll never be the first thing that you do will never stay final. Like that, I don't think that has ever happened for me ever in my life. And if it has, then it's from people that don't really care about the project all that much, and it doesn't really benefit from it.
Yeah, I think learning how to prioritize is definitely an important skill. Like you have to know, where to spend your chips, kind of thing. What?
Just in life.
Yeah.
just generally, that's just the end. Just apply that to everything.
That's a good life lesson. Yeah.
Just learn to prioritize the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, so true.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so I didn't write this question, so please don't attack me for it.
No.
No, I was going to
Cancelled.
say, well, they actually, you guys could answer this. They made it very easy. They said, "How has the industry changed for?" I guess they meant women in the last 5 years or so. You could expand on that for how long you've been in the industry, because I know sometimes you feel the change, see the change type of thing.
I mean, I guess it would be in what way or for what and
Yeah.
through what filter.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it's a bit of a.
I think
Do
there's
you think
definitely
there's
more women working
Yeah, I was
now.
gonna say, do you think there's more women like looking to come in or coming into the industry than
Yeah.
before?
Yeah, I feel like it's, I mean, I wasn't in games 15 years ago, so I can't speak to what that was or 20 years
Yeah.
ago or anything like that. I've heard horror stories.
Wow.
But I think that it's like, it's trending at least towards being like a positive, welcoming environment, which I think is the most important thing. And like, not just for women, but like diversity in general. It's like,
Mhm.
I think as games develop, we're like, oh, like we're making games for everyone. Like we're not just making them for like this one genre of human and this one age demographic anymore. Like that used to be the thing, but now it's like, you know, there's like Roblox and there's whatever, like still Call of Duties, and there's all these different types of games, and it's like you need all of these different types of people to make that. Like you can't have the same group of people making all of those games. It's just like you're going to end up with the same end result. So it's, if you want diversity in the product, then you have to have diversity in the studio, I think. So it makes sense even from a financial perspective as a studio to be like, we want to hire diverse people to make better products for,
Yeah.
you know, larger groups of humans.
Yes, correct. Fully agree. I mean, I think that for me, my only perception of what has maybe changed or increased is just the conversations around things. But
Oh, good.
I have to say that my experience of the whole, you know, gender in the industry has always been one of there's what I've experienced and what I have seen, and then there's the conversation that happens on like the internet. And
Yeah.
to me, they're rarely the same. In my experience, they have never really been mirrored exactly. Not to say that things, you know, happen. Obviously, there's bias. Obviously, there's discrimination everywhere, wherever you go. People are people wherever. But like my experience has never really been one where being a woman has been a roadblock or a major issue or something that I need to talk to other people about. If anything, I feel like I've had a little bit of a privileged treatment where I've been like, here is a woman. Don't look at her in a way that she does not like to be. Like it's a little bit more from that place. But I do know that for example, I think the bigger studios are the ones to look at for that. Indie studios are you know, not really going to be having the kind of problems of like 5,000 men to 200 women. And in the bigger studios, I mean, maybe Melissa can talk a little bit more about that. But I've always been like, there's always channels of like women only channels and women only activities and places to reach out for, and there's like a lot of that. So I think if the feeling behind the question is that there's apprehension around, I would say in my experience, I don't know if it's particularly placed in reality, but obviously that's mine. I don't know.
I mean, we tend to find each other, I feel like. Like in any industry, women tend to like, if you feel like, and you see another one, like, oh, hey girl, what's up? And I mean, you guys' story alone is just mentioning that. It's like, hey, I knew Melissa, I knew that. It's just really cool. But go ahead, Melissa, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I think like, you know, also you know, having personal growth, like I think in my early days, I may not have been like perceptive to things that have been happening. At the same time, for the most part, I don't feel there's been any overt discrimination for the most part towards me. Like I'm also like a non-white person, right? And I would agree with Ceci that I think now we're having more conversations about it, and people are encouraged to speak up if something bad does happen, and those bad things can be big, they can be small, right? And but as long as we're comfortable discussing that, I think that's really good progress. I think there's a lot more effort in terms of like education programs to encourage girls at younger ages to get involved with, or like to even let them know that this is an option, right? Like in tech, I think, you know, there is a low percentage of female people that work in tech.
Yeah,
So
I'd be interested to know programmers. I think for developer, artist, animator, even maybe game designers a little bit. I know it's the programming and the software engineering section that definitely has the biggest disparity for gender. So that, and we all know that programmers are a little bit different species of people than artists and animators as well. So I think that
species.
kind of. We would need, I guess, the input as well in that field, because maybe it would be a very different experience too.
Mm-hmm, for sure. I think we're making good progress. Like my studio is, I feel like they're very progressive, they're very inclusive, and they make a conscious effort to be inclusive. So I think, you know, someone was talking to me about this, and what they were saying is like, there's no space for discrimination. Like, we're here to build good products. Why are you wasting our time if not to come together as, you know, good human beings, treat each other with respect, to collaborate on something that, you know, brings entertainment to other people. So I think we have to champion ourselves, and we have to champion everyone else, right? Like, it's not on one group to, you know, to defend themselves or to stand up for themselves or whatever, right? So I think I think there's growing pains happening as well right now, for sure.
Oh yeah.
We can sway strongly one way, we can sway strongly the other, but I think it's good the conversations are being had.
Kara, you wanted to add anything or no?
Honestly, nothing new that these guys haven't already addressed. Yeah, it's been nice to be in an environment where I've definitely like seen it just over time change more from my perspective in numbers. Just like I got to work with a lot more women than I did at the beginning, and just a general mindset change towards openness and diversity that and like Ceci mentioned as well, just like the presence of the conversation is unavoidable, right? So yeah, and also it's really great, just to add to that, I think it is really cool to see a lot of support for women in esports. Like that's a space that I feel up until very recently it was extremely male dominated, and it's been really cool too. Like right now with our racing game, it's a racing game, so most of our community is men currently. But it just through one player that got our game on early access, I connected with a lot of women racing sim racers, and having their own leagues and a lot of support networks for increasing diversity of women in racing and in video game racing, which is really cool to see. And it was completely under my radar, but
that's cool.
It surprised me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did I go to Des? I don't even remember.
Think
yeah,
so?
you did talk. You did.
Yeah.
I was like,
I think you were first. No, I do remember what she said. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's pretty awesome. I think we're seeing a lot more, like you said, the conversation. Also, a lot more executive positions going to women and things like that. Even on the game development side. So
My studio's going by women, so.
Okay, can I ask this question? Tell me if I can, okay? I just want to know what you guys are working on. what you could talk about, especially Sony Studios over there. Hi.
I mean, we announced a God of War game.
Yes.
That's all I can say.
Okay, so I saw Santa Monica. I was like, oh, that's God of War. Oh my God. I was so excited. Big fan. I'm always a huge fan of just like, it's so weird how I have like these full circle moments just as like a gamer, because I think I was telling Desi earlier about FIFA. Because I still have it in my bin over there. The one with it's half. One is a woman, one is a man. And how when I played that game, and I was like, oh, I feel so good. Like finally, like even just every. And then to find out she did some of the animations and stuff like that, I'm like, oh, excuse me.
That was a huge push for you, Des, no? Like I remember when we were doing the panel in VFS, you were talking a lot about all the work that you guys were doing in FIFA to build
Yeah,
the teams, no?
That was the crazy thing because like originally they weren't going to get any animation. It was just going to be like a
Wow.
reskin.
Yeah.
Hopefully I don't get in trouble
And
for saying
I
that. And then it
wow.
was like, what if we just put on a mocap suit and like ran around and did some things? And then it ended up being this whole thing where it was like, I think we showed it to like our art director and like EPs, and they were like, "Oh, like men and women do move differently. That's amazing." Like even from like the FIFA camera, which is like a very pulled out isometric camera, and it was like, okay, now we should invest in this. Like now we should take it seriously. And then we got like the U.S. women's national soccer team to come up and shoot mocap, and it became like a whole thing. And like at the start, though, it wasn't going to be any of that. So I was like, yes, women.
I'm so glad. I'm like tearing up thinking
We got
about it.
hips. I don't know.
We got
No, like it's so cool.
That's the best.
Yes, I have a quick question. Were you part of the mocap process?
Yes,
Did you get to meet
wow.
Abby Wambach?
I did. And like
so
I'm
jealous.
jealous right now.
Megan Rapinoe and Alex Morgan and the whole
Amazing.
Sydney LaRue, I think, also came up. But like, I
Amazing.
think I still have mocap of me in that game.
Really?
Like, I did like
That's so cool.
I did the first shoot where it was just like running and like strafing and like nothing that was like soccer technical because I'm not an athlete, obviously, if you can't tell. And I super run like a girl. Like I put the definition of run like a girl, but it was like good enough to prove
Anime
the
run.
point.
Not the anime run.
And then they were like, "Oh, this is cool. Now let's get the professionals in here." But I think there's still like idols somewhere of me
Wow.
like stretching or like the non like
awesome.
athletic stuff
That's
is still
so
like in the
awesome.
game somewhere.
That's
So
good.
Yeah.
yeah.
I wanted to do that when I was at EA, but just fun fact, when
Mhm.
you're gonna do mocap, it's ideal if you're a little bit more within the average proportions. But I'm 6 feet
Mhm.
tall, and so I was too tall to transfer.
Yeah.
Like it would be too much work to have my proportions be transferred over. So they're like, "No, you freak." They're there with your giants, and everybody like, fine.
Yeah, I remember holding on to. I still have it. I held on to, and I said I will never trade this game because this when I felt that, and if no one ever tells you, I felt it because I think I said it on stream. I said it feels different. It feels like a woman. And this is amazing. I would just play the national teams all the time. I grew up
Yay.
on soccer, mayhem. Anything you can do, I could do that. Listen, I remember those times so much, and just like, wow, thanks, Desi. I really love you. I
Thanks.
felt the difference, and I can say that as well for when I played 2K and they finally put women in. I think it was live. It was live. It was EA again. And they put in women, and I was like, this feels like a woman is playing basketball, and I love it. The layups were quick, and it was just amazing. So,
That's great.
yeah. So, wow. Sorry, did I go on a rant? My bad.
No.
No.
It's good things to point out, right? So
Yeah, I mean, it's for any game. I mean, when I play fighters, like, I could say that about Mortal Kombat, which you guys worked on as well. I generally play women in the games because
I always pick women. I don't know
Yeah.
what's up with that. I can't not
I'm
pick
like,
the woman. I don't know why.
it was like Chun-Li's birthday like a few weeks ago. I'm like, oh, I remember like as a kid, like Chun-Li, like I was like,
Chun-Li,
oh my god.
Yes, it's true. I was like, she's got big thighs. I like her. Isn't it?
Yeah.
I
right?
used to play like Gauntlet Legends back in the day, like the arcade version of Gauntlet Legends
Oh
with
my
like the
God.
green archer and like yellow warrior or whatever.
Yeah.
And you could pick women in that game, and they were like the most over sexualized pixels ever.
Yes.
Oh my
But
god.
we're like fighting in their underwear basically. But I was like, but it's a woman,
Yeah.
so I'm
Yeah.
just gonna go with it because in
Yeah, people
some
ask
way
me why
there's
I
a
play Dead or
connection there.
Alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, people ask me why I play Dead or Alive. I'm like, because it's like a real woman's fight. You ever knock some lady's hair out? And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, you can knock somebody's boob out too. And they're like, oh my God, that's terrible. But no, I'm
That's
kidding.
yeah. Gross.
But
If we were able to inject woman wrath into games, that would be a whole other level of experience.
I'm like, the world
Yeah.
isn't ready.
Whole other level.
We need like an aggressive girl game or something. Because
But I
she's
do,
like so
it's in,
female now.
I'm very curious to see if you guys will relate because I remember like Chun-Li being so amazing and so strong,
Mhm.
and but I also remember a lot of like there's one racing game that me and my brothers used to play a ton. It's called Wave Race, where you would race in water bikes, and there were 4 characters, and the woman characters, which is the one that I chose because I was like, well, it's the girl.
Yeah.
She would always go slower. Like you could not, yeah, you could
Yeah.
not win with her, and it was so frustrating. Like even my brother tried it, and she's just like purposely slower, and
Oh wow.
Lame.
it's just so. But that happened, right? Like that was
Yeah.
definitely like a thing, and so when
I
speaking
think-
about game development, it's just good to remember like what might have we learned from how we saw certain characters depicted and what we might have seen reflected about ourselves that we need to just like sweep away.
And I think something that is definitely different and new that we've been only doing for maybe like 10 years as far as it relates to game is to actually take games seriously as something that affects culture and the way that people perceive each other. Like
100%.
before the conversations were like, we can go back to the 1990s, the 1980s and see the games that were made and like write entire essays about how they don't fit a certain hierarchy. But at the time, that kind of framework didn't even exist, you know, that games weren't taken seriously. They were way more niche. It was this kind of it wasn't a multi-billion-dollar industry the way that it is today. So
it's the thing for the kids, you know, the kids.
Yeah.
and it was done mostly by guys for guys, and you know, eventually Nintendo came and kind of changed that a little bit, and we're all the generation of Nintendos, of course, and so that shifted over. But when
I
understanding,
fucking love Nintendo.
yeah, of course.
God bless.
So many times in job interviews, I remember I've been asked like, you know, oh, your game was your favorite game? I was like Mario Kart, but it's a framework that we didn't have before, and that it's great that we have it now. It's awesome that the internet in that sense has given people the language and the filter to be like, hey, these things matter. If you're seeing yourself in a game, somehow it actually matters to us, and we feel differently about ourselves when you can see that. Who knew? And now we're like, okay, well, now we know, so now it's good to move forward.
See, I was gonna say, I always say this on this show. I'm like, oh, the video gaming industry, they finally recognize women as people. So now we're gonna get women, because it's just felt like that for the last 4 years. Finally, we're getting women protagonists that is not Lara Croft in like a tank top in the jungle, which is okay, when you're.
I don't know about you. Every time I'm in the jungle, I'm wearing a tank top and I'm doing.
Same.
I have a picture of Ceci in the forest, looking exactly like Lara Croft.
Yeah, and I'm like
less athletic. Severely less athletic, Lara Croft.
Not less athletic. But at 13, you weren't thinking about that. You just wanted to play as Lara Croft and have fun with that. So it's really good that the conversation is like more advanced and people are talking about it. Oh man.
I mean, we shit on games a lot, but like every form of entertainment back then was that too.
Yeah, that's what I'm
like
saying.
TV,
Yeah,
like
culturally, we just didn't have that filter.
yeah. So it's like games is evolving, TV's evolving, like all of entertainment
movies,
is like catching up in that sense. And when they do it, they kind of do it in like a tropey way now, which is also funny. So I don't know. Yeah, it's like it was a product of its time, and now it's its time, and it's totally okay. And like I want to caveat that with saying like you can still have the like shoot 'em up crazy whatever Doom all that kind of stuff. Like that's not the game that I play and or would make, but like I think that's amazing, and that should totally exist. And like I don't think women like moving into the space will make that not exist. So it's like that's like a thing, right? Like just it will keep happening. Don't worry about it. Everybody calm down.
There will always be more of that for sure.
Yeah. It's not going away. It's okay.
Yeah.
I think that games brings a really interesting filter to talk about those things, though, because they're always centered around fun, right? Like, you want a game to be fun. The end. You can have a game that's, like, conceptually interesting and rich, but if it's not fun, then it fails as a game. That's why it's a game. So that aspect of fun and the way that we engage with serious topic through the lenses of fun is very different. Like, I think that we still are trying to find a way that we can talk serious and talk academic and talk all you want about, like, how we analyze structures. But we still have a little bit of attention as to how that translates into a field that is kind of fun based and interactivity based. And it challenges us in new ways. And I think that's actually a really interesting place for us to kind of focus in, to be like, we're making these things for a very specific purpose, which is fun. So how do we relate to fun? And then how does representation work? Like all of those things, it's a little bit different than maybe movies and film.
Yeah.
Because those are more passive things you just watch, and you can have a movie be really sad and be not fun and be serious. And I mean, I guess games could be that too, but it's just like you said, like terror, like horror games and stuff, or like dark games.
God of War taught me I didn't want to be a parent right now. I was okay, boy. I was like, come over here, get here, right now. Oh my God! I really enjoyed it regardless. I was like,
no, totally.
Come on.
So I just think that it offers it's a different platform through which to see that is a little bit harder to talk about, but it's all the more interesting for it.
Carol, I have a question for you that's like so random and off base of this topic, but I want to ask it before you leave.
Yeah.
What made you to decide to go do your own studio, and like how fucking scary was that?
It was pretty fucking scary for sure. I think honestly, what made me decide it was just I didn't decide. I think it was a lot of it was inertia. Because my brothers lived in Mexico City making this game for a couple of years. So it started with my brother Alberto, who used to study here. He studied game design as well in Vancouver, and then he worked a little bit in the industry, then went back and just decided that he was going to make the racing game that he wanted to play. And then he kind of brought my brother into it. It's an interesting story in regards to the whole education thing, etc., because they're both like super self-taught game developers. I mean, Alberto went to game design, but it's a year, right? Like you learn only so much, and it's been an ongoing, like for all of us, it's just been an ongoing educational space. But yeah, I think when we decided that we wanted to pursue it is when my brothers just made this demo that was really fun and really beautiful. And we had like my brother Alberto and I had dreamt of making games together, and we had talked about it since we were younger, when we had no idea how to get there. So that's what I mean by inertia. It's just like when I saw this demo, I was like a couple of weeks from going to GDC, and I was like, man, I have to like figure out pursuing options for us to start pitching to publishers, because there's a game here. And then we started doing that together. And I do have to give like a huge shout out to our publisher, who is it's a branch of Square Enix called Square Enix Collective. They focus specifically on indie developers. And it's a very interesting story. We started making a lot of GIFs of the game. And then Sega, which was the owner of the studio that I used to work at Relic, reached out, and they said that they were interested in the game. We talked about it for a bit, and in the end, that didn't go through. But they did introduce us to Square Enix Collective.
Nice.
So it just goes to like the fact that creating content and putting it out there, like you never know who's noticing it. Like after that conversation became something real, it's when we decided to form the studio to do it here in Vancouver, because it's what made sense. It's where most of my network was, and we figured that in Mexico we wouldn't be able to find the right allies. So it was definitely very terrifying, and it continues to be, because it's like no one taught me about owning a corporation and doing our taxes and managing payroll. Like Ceci has been just such an ally, and like has listened to all of my perils and learning frustrations, etc. throughout it. But
Keto was already, I mean, to preach late into Keto right now, like when we were at Relic, I didn't even know what her position was, because she did everything all the time. She was there for like, again, she received me when I was a new hire. I thought she was part of HR, and then she was part of the presentations for the game, whatever. and then she was also working with whoever. And like there was a point, it's like I'm sure that how much they pay you, it's not enough because you're doing the role for like 5,000 people already at Relic, at that kind of company. So, from my perspective, obviously, when you are the person, it always feels like you know what I'm doing. But from my perspective, Kata was already like all star. She was already like running all of these different things in that studio without anybody really asking her. Like as soon as something came up, she's like, "I would do it." It's like that's not even your field. So for me, when she said we're gonna start a studio, I'm like, yeah, of course.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew like the steeper hill, like she said, the learning curve that she had to go through was more like the bureaucratic aspects of running a business, but not necessarily the actual how do you handle the production of a game because she was already doing that at Relic, doing 5,000.
Yeah, it was definitely. I learned so much at that studio. But yeah, it hasn't ceased to be terrifying, but it's been super rewarding, and just being able to work with the people that I loved working with, and growing the possibilities for us to be able to expand that network to like, yeah, just the game developers are again contagiously euphoric about what they're doing, right? Like we can love what we do as long as we don't burn out doing it. So that gives me a lot of purpose. Thank you for the question. That was really beautiful.
Yeah, that was a really great question.
Sorry, I totally hijacked that.
No,
Oh, it's
that's,
okay.
that's perfect.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Why, Des? Do you have an itch to do that?
Yeah.
No, I was just like curious because the last time I talked to Kara, she was at Relic still, and I was like, oh, that's always. I mean, even like the founders of like Bonfire, the studio I'm at right now, like they were all at Blizzard mostly for the most part. And like at some point, people just decide to like go and take the risk and like do this thing for themselves that they're passionate about, and one day I would like to do that. I don't feel like I'm there yet, but like I'm just always fascinated by like almost like the psychology of it, or like
Yeah.
you know, is it like this perfect moment that happens, or is it just like table flip, I'm gonna go do it and I might be poor in a year, but we'll see how it goes. Like I don't know.
Definitely reach out whenever, because I've like definitely kept a resource of things where I'm like, okay, things that I wish that somebody had taught me.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
awesome.
And,
Could do
and
a
I
whole
will-
BDC talk on it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You
Yeah.
should.
She
But
should.
it's such like a good time to be an independent developer too. I think right now.
Oh,
yeah.
definitely.
I mean, pandemic aside, it's just like games are hot. People are like people can't get enough content. Like Amazon and Google and like all the big like publishers are like we can't get enough stuff. Like who's got
Yeah.
stuff? So yeah, it feels like it's a good time to do that. So that's
Yeah.
I
awesome.
think that right now the
happy
new
for you.
challenge might not be the how do you make it successful, even though that in itself is a mammoth challenge to how to actually make that work. But how do you define success from a perspective of it's not about endless growth, right? Like it's not about just more, bigger, more games. Like at what point do you say this is the kind of stuff that I want to do, and I'm happy with this team size, and this is how big as I want to get. The end. Like I know that I'm having like, those conversations have been going on in my studio since I started, and it is a shift of mentality because most people start, a business thinking like, well, the bigger it grows, the better. But in reality, but in reality, especially around creative endeavors, the more you have a clear scope of like, this is my definition of success, and this is how I want to grow a team and maybe do these kinds of games and be great at that, the end. And maybe, of course, once I get there, I can reassess. I think that's a shift in mentality that is happening, and that is kind of great because honestly, that's the thing that allows us to do things the way that we want them, to not burn out like crazy, to not be doing the same games everybody, like all the things you were saying. This, so, but it does have to shift. It has to be a paradigm shift in your mind to be like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
I love Supercell for that. Like the studio that just released Hades. Well, not just released Hades, but it's been out for a while now. But like Transistor and Bastion and whatever else, they've
I
done
love
like 5
Hades.
games
Oh my
now in
God.
like 10 years or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And like they're staying small, which is
Yep.
amazing. And like I don't know, they feel like they're staying really true to themselves, and I'm like, I love it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard. I'm sure it's hard. Money.
It's definitely like it's such a massive achievement for. I think I would put 2 studios in that category that I know of: Supercell and Clay. Here in Vancouver.
Yeah, Clay, yeah.
That just like can they haven't defined their identity by a game genre, but rather by making just incredible games. And that's such a beautiful thing because it means that they're always open to bringing new people in, and for those people to figure out what kind of game they want to make.
Mhm.
And for an indie studio, that's such a wonderful opportunity to offer people, right? Like, I really just respect that growth and that freedom that you earn by learning to do different things, and not relying only on like one success that you can
Yeah, and then
attach to.
reiterating over that forever,
Yeah.
forever. No. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 Oh, okay. Sorry to interrupt. We
No
do have a
problem.
giveaway. It's going to be going off in chat in about 2 minutes, so make sure you guys enter. And we're going to, not, well, if you want the back.
I mean, I'd love to.
But-
But
Go for it.
I like free stuff. Where?
Same. So now that you know that I like free stuff, what are you? No, I'm kidding. No, but are you guys working on anything? And if you, well, other than God of War, which I'm kind of waiting for, is it this year or next year? I don't know. I'm kidding.
comment.
Ignore me. Yeah, ignore me.
Squeeze it out of her.
Yeah. I do want to talk because I did hear Ceci mention burnout. Like, is that often, or is it like during a big project or after a big project? What is like a dev? Not dev. Should I call it dev burnout? But I mean, we all go through it, especially like the creatives. Is there like a certain moment where you feel like I need a break?
Always. I mean, I think it's just like it comes down to like your team really and your production and like what you value. Like I'm on a team right now that's super amazing in the sense where they're like, if you ever feel like you're getting crispy, just take time off. Like they don't even want it to like get back past the point where you're like, I'm dead and now I need like 3 months off or whatever. It's
Oh,
like
no.
take time as you need it. I think it's super common with artists overall, even when the production isn't asking for your time, you will often give it as an artist because most artists are perfectionists or they're like excited about the project that they're working on and you just end up like giving more hours than you anticipate and then at some point you're like I haven't given hours to myself or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think like that's part of the reason that burnout in our industry as a whole is common and then the other part is obviously just like planning and like the production side of it, like if you're working with publishers when they need stuff by and there's like a whole bunch of moving parts, so like at any time if like one of those cogs stops spinning then like everybody's cogs kind of stop spinning and it sets everything back. So
Yeah.
but I mean I think a lot of people especially during the pandemic and working from home like are being super mindful with like how people are doing in general, right? Like even
No,
game
that's
development
good.
aside, it's like we're in a weird, unprecedented time where it's like if you need to take time for yourself, take time for your family,
course.
like whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad's
I think that-
oh, go ahead, Ceci. I was gonna say
Oh,
my
well, no,
dad's
just very
company
quickly.
actually gave a wellness like website for them just in case like but he works in a different industry. But I think that's so cool that they just give them that on the side. But go ahead, Ceci.
Well, I was just gonna say that it's a two-part thing. There's
Yeah.
like the systemic problem of burnout, where if you happen to be in a studio that doesn't do time management properly, that under budgets for things, that sometimes not once, but that is kind of planning to exploit people. Unfortunately, kind of does happen sometimes when it's like, well, we can underbid for something, and then we'll just push the workers for that. And then there's the individual problem that Des is talking about. The worst is when they both coalesce, and then you have a studio that then is, but we're a family, we're in this together, and not really, because there's no loyalty. It's kind of a bit of an exploitative practice. And then you get the people that are like, yes, I'm gonna work as that. So
Yeah. That's
it's
what
a
I was
two-part
gonna.
solution.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the kind of invisible part of burnout that is very tangible when in your body when you experience it, I think, is the psychological aspects, right? Like there's the burnout that comes from just being overworked over time, but I think also just the psychological of like feeling so much pressure is on you that you can't take time off because that there's all this pressure and all of these expectations. Also, when there's like frustration or tension between a team, like when you are not having the right conversations, or when people are being passive aggressive, like that kind of passive stress on your day to day can just cause such a massive physical exhaustion. Um, and so it's like that's my advocacy for just like open, good conversations at work, where you can talk about like what's behind what's going on in the game and the project. And just definitely people just like psychological exhaustion translates into physical exhaustion necessarily, and also you can't solve problems in that mindset.
Mhm.
Oh, Fire Hot Bird. Congratulations. You want to.
I
It's
like
not
that
a
they're
backpack,
like
it's a
neat.
jacket.
I'm reading the chat now.
Yeah, sorry.
Amazing.
You go, oh,
Amazing.
okay, neat.
That's my favorite response. Neat.
Well, I hope you enjoy it, and thank you so much for watching. Okay, we got to do the wrap up, so we're going to go to everyone. You could say either what you're working on, where people could find you. If you don't want to be found, just say, what games you like and things
Leave
like
me
that.
alone. Get off my lawn.
I'm excited. All the projects I hear, I'm like so excited about it. But you guys could just tell them, any information, social media, anything you want to share. And we'll start with Des and then go down the
Oh
line.
geez, I am not prepared.
Okay, we'll
I
start with
mean,
Cal
I
and
live
go down
on
the line.
Twitter
Oh,
and,
there you
and
go.
Instagram. I don't know. Yeah, I don't really care either way, to be honest.
Yeah, just don't harass them.
Yeah, don't harass me. I wish I were that cool to be harassed.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But
Well,
do you want
I
to
can
start
go.
Des or no?
Oh,
Okay, we'll start the opposite and go.
Yeah, I can go. Okay. So, so we're wrapping up?
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So, I'm making Circuit Superstars. It's a PC game currently on early access on Steam. It's a top-down racing game. I think everyone in the world would enjoy it. So definitely check it out. And if you would like to connect with me, I'm on Twitter as Blingwolf, and my information is on the stream. So that's it.
Cool. Well, I'm an old lady, so I'm not anywhere. No, I'm just kidding. I guess if anybody had questions at some point, there's not much to say for the professional work, but I can be found in LinkedIn and Instagram. But
Or
LinkedIn
ask me, because I talk to Ceci
or
every
ask Caro.
every
I'm
night and day.
yeah.
Yeah.
She's my agent. Yeah, no, just LinkedIn probably would be the best if anybody wants to follow me. But I don't have anything particularly interesting to follow, so that's.
Everyone just go through Carol.
Yeah.
She's a cool one. She's a cool one. You gotta follow her.
I'm on Twitter. Username's slapping the bass with a DE. I really like the movie I Love You Man, so you will find me posting gifs of Paul Rudd on my Twitter every now and again. So be aware of that. But yes, I'm on Twitter most.
Awesome.
And I am drunk_pixel on Instagram. I have a Twitter, but I never use it. I'm like the most non-Twitter person ever. So yeah, it's,
okay.
I don't know. I wish I was better at social media. Like even like everyone's like, I'm on
No, you
Snap
don't.
now,
Time
and
stuff.
I'm like, I don't know
Time
what it
stuff.
is.
It's okay.
Yeah,
You're not missing anything.
I even missed like the whole Snapchat thing, and I feel like I was in that generation, but I still
No,
missed
we
it.
were
I don't
a
know.
bit old. We were just on the tail end of it. I only used it to talk to Kato and send us videos, but we had like a whole learning curve, and then it just faded
Yeah,
out.
I was like for the first time just like stretching the phone away from my face, being like, "What is happening? What is this UI?" Like none of the patterns that I knew to work. I was like, "That's it. I'm now a generation past Snapchat." Yeah.
You know what? I'm not ashamed of it. It's fine.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
It moved on to
I
tape.
choose her.
I'm a
so
little ashamed.
hard.
I'm a little ashamed. I should be able.
Well, you all were lovely and amazing, and thank you so much for stopping us from playing Fall Guys. I really
We will play
appreciate it.
Dota one day, though, for sure.
Yes.
That should happen.
I would love that.
It was so lovely to see you girls again.
Yeah, it was so nice to see you
likewise.
guys.
Fun.
See, we did a reunion, didn't even know it.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
totally.
So nice to see everyone. Thank you so much for your time and the questions.
Yes, and thank you so much for making time and coming onto the Hive. Thank you, everybody in chat, for watching, and also to our moderators and our producer. You guys are amazing. Shout out to Catherine and Bayou. But that's it for episode 20. I had an amazing time. You all were lovely. I can't wait to. It's just really warming to know that you guys put so much work behind games, and just know you're very much appreciated, especially by me. And I love having an all women panel anytime. So thank you
I
so
love
much.
feeling important, so any day.
You are important, but yes. Feel free to come back anytime, even if you want to play anything. Make sure you guys follow the stream, follow Esports CCP on all the social media, and yeah, that's it. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week, and that's it. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, ladies. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye, guys. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
How do I disconnect?
I was wrong.